Can you hear us?
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I'm starting in a couple of minutes, the session. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्रयवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम् हर 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 ॐ नमः सोमाय च रुद्राय च नमस्ताम्राय च अरुणाय च नमः शङ्खाय च पशुपतये च नम उग्राय च भीमाय च नमो अग्रे वधाय च दूरे वधाय च नमो हन्त्रे च हनीयसे च नमो वृक्षेभ्यो हरिकेशेभ्यो नमस्ताराय नमः शम्भवे च मयो भवे च नमः शङ्कराय च मयस्कराय च नमः शिवाय च शिवतराय च नमस्तीर्थ्याय च कूल्याय च नमः पार्याय च वार्याय च नमः प्रतरणाय चोत्तरणाय च नमः आतार्याय च लाद्याय च नमः षष्ठ्याय च फेन्याय च नमः सिकत्याय च प्रवाह्याय च ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Om Shri Sai Ram, offering our humble pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet. We invite the dignitaries to light the ceremonial lamp to start the session, marking Professor Vishwanath Pandit sir's memorial lecture. We invite the dignitaries to light the ceremonial lamp. Sai Ram. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritangamaya asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. In the spirit of this sacred verse, we fondly remember and pay homage to Professor Vishwanath Pandit sir, a towering academician, teacher, economist, and spiritual thinker. Professor Pandit sir was not just a brilliant mind, but also a compassionate mentor and a former Vice-Chancellor of our institute. Sir's life embodied the virtues of jnana, wisdom, viveka, discrimination, and niswardha seva, selfless service. As the Upanishads declare, sa vidya ya vimuktaye, true knowledge is that which liberates. Professor Pandit sir lived by this truth. His vision of education uplifted the intellect and purified the heart. He also embodied vidya dadati vinayam, vinayad yati patratam. Knowledge gives humility. From humility comes worthiness. He was a beacon of wisdom who not only shaped institutions with intellectual rigor, but also uplifted the lives through value-based education. Today, as we gather in his memory, we honor not just his contributions to the field of economics and education, but his deeper legacy as a guide who led with both clarity of mind and purity of heart. In this connection, may I now invite Professor P.L. Rani Madam, Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences, Languages, Literature, to deliver the welcome address. Thank you. Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. On behalf of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, I offer our sincere salutations to the Divine Founder Chancellor, who has been the greatest humanitarian spirit and the greatest social benefactor of this age and all ages. Respected members of this august, scholarly, and noble gathering, the Hitopadesha says, and Prabhakar before me quoted half of the verse, Vidya dadati vinayam, vinayad yati patratam, patratvam dhanamapnuyat, dhanat dharmam tata sukham. Knowledge bestows humility. Humility brings worthiness. Worthiness brings wealth, which I would like to redefine as enrichment. And enrichment guides right conduct and satisfaction or contentment. One person who embodied these words of wisdom was our dear Professor Vishwanath Pandit, whom I had the honor of working under when he was the 8th Vice-Chancellor of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. On behalf of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute, it's my happy duty to render a warm welcome to all of you this morning. It may not be mere coincidence, I would think it was divinely intended that we are commemorating or rather celebrating the life and scholarship of a Kashmiri Pandit scholar on the day of Kargil Vijay Divas. That's how the Divine One knots and ties up different loose ends. Revered Chancellor Sir, Shri Chakravarti IAS retired, with your wide reading and leaning towards deep scholarship, it's only inspiring for us that you're here in our presence today. A hearty welcome to you to your own campus at Prasanthi Nilayam. Professor B. Raghavendra Prasad, our Vice-Chancellor, nudges, negotiates, and insists on scholarly pursuits. It's but natural that Sir is with us today this morning on the inaugural of this memorial lecture, which is encouraged and supported by him. Dr. Shrikant Khanna, the registrar, at whose office all the nitty-gritty of events like this is supported and coordinated, we are happy that you made time to be here this morning, sir. To all my colleagues at the leadership team of the Institute, to faculty members, our dear students who are here, let me introduce to you the family of Professor Vishwanath Pandit. Mrs. Pandit, the nephew and wife, have come from Jammu and Kashmir to be with us today. We are deeply satisfied that you made time to be here, ma'am. Thank you so much. Our hearty welcome to you. And now to the chief guest of the day, Professor Mahendra Dev. As the chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India, in a country where dynamic economic development is the order of the day, we understand how valuable your time is, sir. We are extremely gratified and grateful that you are here today with us and sparing your valuable time and scholarship with us. Most welcome to Prasanthi Nilayam digitally this time and hopefully in person another time. To all our viewers, academic fraternity who support SSSIHL, whose patronage we enjoy, to all former students of Professor Pandit, who I understand have also joined online from across India from different institutions, to all those who have joined in for the sheer enjoyment of scholarly talks, to all of you, we extend our hearty welcome. With these words, we hope that this session, Professor Vishwanath Pandit Memorial Talk, will be one that will stay in the academic memory of all of us at the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for those warm words and welcome address. We now invite Professor B. Raghavendra Prasad, sir, Vice-Chancellor of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, to set the broader institutional vision for this special occasion and set the context. Thank you. Sairam sir.
Om Shri Sai Ram, offering all our collective prayers to our most revered founder chancellor, Bhagwan Baba. Respected Chancellor, Shri K. Chakravarti Garu. Of course, the word retired is not useful for him because he's always more active than any of us over here, I can assure you on that. So that's not the title which I'm going to give him, at least, because I know how active he is, how curiously he follows, how sharply intellectual. He wants to know everything. As I always jokingly tell, no matter how much you prepare, when you go to him, he'll ask you a question for which you are not prepared at all. So that's the level of his intellectual curiosity. Very happy to have you here, sir. And our esteemed chief guest, Professor Mahendra Dev, Madam Mrs. Krishna Pandit, and the members of the family of Professor Vishwanath Pandit, deans, directors, my fellow colleagues here, and all my dearest students, and of course, all those who have joined us online to participate in this wonderful session. Of course, last year at the same time, our hearts were very, very heavy for the reasons, we all know for what it is. We lost a very eminent person amongst us. But let me assure you one thing. These memorial lectures, this is not the first and last. This is going to be the university's one of the prime academic events. So I can assure all of you on that. So this is a beginning of those series of lectures which we're going to have every year and many more probably. I welcome all of you with heartfelt gratitude because every one of you, in spite of your, irrespective of your busy schedules, are participating in this memorial lecture. I mean, on a very personal note, of course, I was not fortunate enough to interact with Professor Vishwanath Pandit in any manner, except probably occasionally we met as alumni to talk to him on various issues. And of course, after every meeting with him, we went back very deeply enriched in terms of what the alumni should focus on. He was a man of few words, if I remember right, but those few words were enough to transform anybody who interacted with him. Now, why are we here today? Why are we celebrating his, what we call his, I'm not saying, I don't want to even use the word memorial lecture. No, he lives amongst us, okay? It's not a memorial lecture. He lives amongst all of us because we just cannot, if you look at every wall of this entire campus, you find his footprints. You cannot avoid but seeing all of them. Also to sort of, since it's my duty to say a few words about him. He was one of those eminent scholars who believed the growth should be inclusive and sustainable, and everybody should be part of that growth. Everybody should be included in that growth process. He was not only a scholar of eminence, but I'm sure all those who have interacted with him will know that he is one of the most loved mentors. Everybody is touched, whomsoever he touched on, know the transformation in them. And they also came out with a deep feeling that he is one of the deepest spiritual seeker. Of course, can't be judgmental on anybody's spiritual growth, but you just cannot help. Probably your intellectual logic may not give you a reason at that point of time, but you know very well that this gentleman is something different, someone who is totally different. You just cannot help from feeling that the moment you interact with him, even for a few seconds. Of course, I'm going to repeat what Professor Rani said, or even earlier speaker said. His life was a living synthesis of scholarship, character, and devotion. These are the very threefold foundation on which even today this institute rests. That was his contribution to this institution. He was born pre-independence days in a beautiful village called Kulgam in Kashmir. It's a wonderful place. I'm sure if some of you have not visited, please do visit that place. If you look at his family itself, I'm sure somebody will be covering on that. His father, his parents rather, his father was an practicing advocate and also the president of Bar Association. And his mother, probably from whom he inherited the very gentle nature, was embodiment of grace and wisdom, his mother. So they both nurtured him the values that would define a life of academic excellence and spiritual depth, a very rare combination indeed. To look at his journey or scholarly pursuits, he's a product of the most famous Delhi School of Economics. I'm sure anybody who wants to be an expert in economics would like to study there at some point or other, or be there at some point or other. And he earned his PhD in University of Pennsylvania. His research guide was none other than the Nobel laureate, Lawrence Klein. Because Nobel laureates will not pick up anybody and everybody as students. So even to be anywhere close to them or even to interact with them, they should feel that you deserve that. And that to take an Indian student as a research scholar to mentor them is something which we should always reflect and brood upon. Of course, he worked with, rather he was colleague, no matter what you want to call that, professional colleague or mentor or friend or whatever it is. He worked with great scholars like Dr. Manmohan Singh. Of course, he has visited our institute on several occasions, even as chief guest of one of our convocations. Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia and also Professor Amartya Sen. So you can imagine the league of the best team that he was part of. He was the one, if I can say so, when you read up on him in the net or whatever it is, you look at all his contribution, he's also labeled as person who is instrumental in laying the foundation of macroeconomic modeling in India. So it's a very, very important contribution. Of course, I cannot but say a few words of his own, the later part of his entire career that he spent over here. I won't use the word career as a too demeaning a term for him. The entire holistic life, which included academic excellence as well as spiritual enrichment to all others at our own institute. If I'm right, he came here somewhere in 2000, year 2000. He became faculty over here. And he is the founder of this very Department of Economics here. Okay, he founded this department. It owes its existence for Professor Vishwanath Pandit, to Vishwanath Pandit. Of course, we always say that, we chose to come here, but everybody realizes over here, within no time, that it's Swami who chooses you, not you. It takes some time to understand this statement. It also takes some lot of experience to realize what this statement means. It is so in the case of Prof. Vishwanath Pandit also. If I can use the word, he was divinely ordained to be here. It's nothing but a divine instruction to be here, decision to be here. And of course, many of the seniors would know here, Swami would always call him very fondly as the Delhi professor, if I'm right. Okay, he was always called as the Delhi professor. See, it's a beautiful name. So that's Swami had, I think, if I recall myself watching from distance, if I can use this word, Swami had really greatest respect for him. He would, treat him as greatest scholar and give the, whatever respect that he, more than, any of us can think of or conceive of. As I said, he was instrumental in setting up this very Department of Economics, where several of the new programs were initiated. Even today as we speak now, of course, all of you are here as students, you owe your existence for his contribution and hard work. And I'm happy to see that the department, of course, many of the faculty members probably were his students also. So they still try to maintain or maintaining the same standards what he wants this department to maintain. So that's the level we are all blessed over here. And of course, I also have what I would say is he was appointed as Vice-Chancellor over 2008. He set such high standards to the institute. Every successor, and I mean, if I can say so, even to me today, me also, find it very hard to match his standards. He set such high standards for the university, for all the vice-chancellors, in terms of both administration as well as academic excellence. So even if you learn few lessons from what he did, I'm sure this institute will go further. So that's the standard he has set for all of us, and I humbly accept his, I won't say the challenge, the path he has shown. And of course, retirement is only a word over here. People at Prasanthi, scholars like him would never retire. And Swami ensures there is some role or other assigned for him. If I can recall, he was the first chairman of Sri Sathya Sai Center for Human Values. So Swami appointed him as chairman of, there's a center, beautiful center at Prasanthi, which I'm sure all the students should really understand what it does. That's a humongous amount of work. He was the first chairman who shaped the path of the functioning of that center itself. So that's his post-retirement, what I would say, continuation in academics and excellence, and also showing us all a path. Now, the very first lecture in his honor, we have an excellent, very eminent scholar today, and I'm sure it befits the personality of Professor Vishwanath Pandit. We are fortunate to have Professor Mahendra Dev as our chief guest, a distinguished economist, visionary policy leader, and an academician whose work and values echo that of Professor Vishwanath Pandit himself. Of course, Professor Rani talked about him. He's the current chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to Prime Minister of India, which is I mean, very few can aspire to become there, be in that position. Very few deserve to be there, and he's one of them. So we are really fortunate to have him today to deliver this first lecture. He's such a scholar because all of us are academicians over here. There are a lot of things to learn from him in this scholarliness in spite of his administrative roles. He has published more than 150 papers in really scholarly journals on economics, and 23 books, which is a humongous achievement for anybody who is in academics. And as a recognition of his scholarliness and achievements in academics, he was appointed as the Vice-Chancellor of Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research. And later, I think he was in that post for almost 12 years, if I remember right. And later, he's now currently the, as I said, chairman of the Economic Advisory Council. He was also the chairman for the Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices. And in that role, he exemplifies the rare confluence of academic excellence, policy relevance, and ethical leadership. So he's Professor Mahendra Dev. The theme today of his talk is beautifully structured. The theme of his talk is the future of India, growth, inclusiveness, and sustainability. So all three are three foundational principles of economic progress of any country. As we all know that India, in terms of its growth, is at an inflection point now, right? We have turned around quite a bit over the last decade or so or more. It is not just economic prosperity, but people like him show us the path to shape Bharat, our own beloved motherland. The growth should be equitable, compassionate, and ecologically balanced, because sustainability is the critical thing now. Sustainable development, sustainable growth is the critical thing. So we are lucky to have such an eminent scholar today to talk to all of us. Of course, all these principles, Professor Vishwanath Pandit lived. He talked about them. He evolved scholarly approach to solve most of these problems. So most of the problems connected with these three pillars, because it's not very easy to combine all these three, because you see that when you talk about only growth, there's an disaster in the environment. And somewhere or other, we have reached a point where if we do not go in full reverse gear, I'm sure the future is going to be bleak for anybody and everybody. As an institute, such Institute of Higher Learning, if you look at our own vision and mission, Swami always talked, this institution should bring about students or generate students who have head of Adi Shankara, the skills of King Janaka, and the compassion of Lord Gautam Buddha. So if you look at all that, and today's talk actually requires all of them to realize that. You will see, all of you will realize that these three principles are critically essential to ensure a growth that is sustainable, at the same time eco-sensitive and all-inclusive. So I once again welcome Professor Mahendra Dev and all our colleagues over here, guests, for this wonderful session. And I'm sure we are all excited to listen to him. Thank you all. Sai Ram.
We thank Professor Raghavendra Prasad sir for setting up the context and taking us down the memory lane on the legacy of Professor Vishwanath Pandit sir. On behalf of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Sathya Institute of Higher Learning, it's a privilege to welcome Professor S. Mahendra Dev, who will deliver today's memorial lecture on the theme, Future of India, Growth, Inclusiveness and Sustainability. Professor Dev currently serves as a chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India. He earned his PhD from Delhi School of Economics and a postdoctoral at Yale University, United States of America. He is one of the India's most respected economists with decades of impactful work in public policy, agricultural economics, development studies, and macroeconomics. His international stature is equally impressive as he's chairman, vice chairman of the board of trustees, and also a board member of the International Food Policy Research Institute, Washington, for over 7 years. He also served on the National Statistical Commission and chaired the Committee on Terms of Trade for Agriculture. He has advised and consulted numerous global institutions such as United Nations Development Program, World Bank, UNESCO, International Labour Organization, Food Agriculture Organization, UNICEF, and Niti Aayog. Professor Mahendra Dev sir has authored 23 books and published over 150 research papers in the areas of food security, employment, social protection, poverty, and equitable growth. His widely acclaimed book, Inclusive Growth in India, Agriculture, Poverty, and Human Development, was published by the Oxford University Press. Sir has received several prestigious awards, including Malcolm Adiseshaya Award in 2016 and Honorary D.Lit. Doctor of Literature from Acharya Nagarjuna University, and has been recognized for excellence in teaching and public service. Sir has held leadership roles in almost every major economics association in India, from Indian Economic Association to Indian Econometric Society to the Indian Society of Agricultural Economics and the Indian Society of Labor Economics. It's a matter of great honor, sir, to have you here with all of us. May I invite now Professor Mahendra Dev to deliver the Professor Vishwanath Pandit Memorial Lecture. Thank you. Sai Ram, sir.
The Vice-Chancellor, Dean, Registrar, and Madam Krishna Pandit, and thank you for all your kind words. A very good morning to all of you. So let me first thank the students, staff, and faculty of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning for inviting me to deliver the first Professor V.N. Pandit Memorial Lecture. I'm sorry I couldn't come to Puttaparthi physically, as my present job is very hectic. Before going to this lecture, I will say a few words on my interactions with Professor V.N. Pandit. In fact, my association with Professor V.N. Pandit dates back to 1978, when I joined the Delhi School of Economics as a doctoral student. Although by that time, the great teachers like Amartya Sen, Jagdish Bhagwati, Pranab Bardhan, and some others had left, Delhi School still had outstanding faculty, which includes Professor Pandit. As mentioned earlier, he is regarded as the pioneer of economics policy modeling in India. In fact, in our MPhil classes, we had to learn macroeconometric modeling written by Professor V.N. Pandit and Professor K. Krishnamurthy. So they were very useful for my research in later years. In fact, I used to interact with Professor Pandit at Delhi School on issues relating to econometrics and Indian economy. He was open to argument and always tried to help students, scholars, and institutions. I learned a great deal during my time at Delhi School of Economics and owe most of my career success in academics and policy making to the analytical foundation I got from people like Professor Pandit at the Delhi School of Economics. I was also in touch with Professor Pandit when I was the director of IGIDR, Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research, Mumbai. He visited IGIDR a few times, and his advice on various matters was very useful. He also invited me to Prasanthi Nilayam, Puttaparthi, to give lectures when he was Vice-Chancellor of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Professor Pandit was an eminent academician and vast experience in teaching and guiding research. He was also concerned about social and economic problems of the vulnerable sections of the society. He was a wonderful human being. As a person, the qualities and distinguishes from Professor V.N. Pandit was his integrity, simplicity, and humility. So we will miss him. On Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, I have also personal connection. My wife Sivamala is a graduate of this institute, several years back, and also some of my relatives and others stay in Prasanthi Nilayam. So regarding the memorial lecture, I thought I would give on future of India, growth, inclusion, and sustainability, which Professor Pandit would have liked. So basically, I want to give in the next 40 minutes or so, an overview of challenges and policies on these issues. So before going to the future, I will say a few words over the 78 years of after independence. So at the time of independence, Jawaharlal Nehru and Congress and many others were influenced by the socialistic ideas. So first 3 decades, we had protection policies, more state involvement, public sector dominated. Also, we had this Mahalanobis model in the second 5-year plan, which preferred the heavy industry. Employment in that way was neglected. Also, since Jawaharlal Nehru days, even primary education, we didn't give importance, unlike some of the other countries. Of course, we had some achievements like big irrigation projects, science and technology, push to higher education like IITs and all, and green revolution in agriculture. However, growth was low. Labor-intensive manufacturing was not undertaken. So in the first 3 decades of independence, we had average growth rate of 3.5%. So per capita is also around 2.5 or less than that. I mean, around 1% because population was around more than 2% growth. So my teacher at the Delhi School of Economics, Professor Raj Krishna, he called it Hindu rate of growth, the 3.5%. So by the end of 1970s, many countries, particularly in the East and Southeast Asian countries, including China, introduced economic reforms. Of course, India introduced reforms in 1991, so we are almost a decade late in introducing the reforms. So in the last 3 decades after the reforms, we had an average growth rate of 6 to 6.5 per annum. So that is the history of last 78 years in nutshell. So this lecture I'm going to focus on more the issues and challenges on this growth, inclusion, and sustainability. So what are the medium and long-term future look like for the Indian economy in a post-pandemic world? As you all know, India is now aspiring to become a developed nation by 2047. So what are the challenges and opportunities for that? So this is in the context of global environment and India's own. So we must look at what are the goals of development. One is growth, second is inclusion, third is sustainability. So the 2047 goals, it doesn't mean that we achieve developed nation in terms of per capita income, We also have to achieve employment and other inclusive, part of growth. And also it has to be sustainable and climate change resilience. So what are the global challenges? We all know that there are twin shocks of global challenges. One is the geopolitical wars. We are having several wars. Even now, again, Thailand and Cambodia also now fighting. And there are trade policy uncertainties because of the President Trump policies. And so there are two shocks now at global level. And also other challenges, like many countries have debt problems and also inequalities within countries and across countries. And another thing is, of course, climate change at global level also, apart from these other problems at global level. So on domestic front, India, 2047, coming to first growth, we want to have per capita income of developed nation. So there are some estimates by Dr. Rangarajan and others. We need 11 to 12% of nominal growth, and then 7 to 8% of real growth after netting the inflation. Some of the states also they are doing. For example, Andhra Pradesh wants to have, the Swarna Andhra Pradesh, 2.4 trillion by 2047, and Telangana wants to have 3 trillion by 2047. So India wants to achieve 30 trillion. So out of that, Telangana wants to have 10%. But also, sometimes it is difficult once we reach the middle income. Now India is in lower middle income. So suppose we reach middle income, there is a term called middle income trap. So that middle income trap, for example, in 1960s, there were 101 middle income economies. Out of that, only 23 had attained high income status by 2018. So what happens is that after reaching the middle income, sometimes we won't be able to achieve faster growth. For example, we are achieving 6.5 or 7 over next few years, but after some time it goes to 3%, 4% and all. So that is the called middle income trap. So we can probably avoid that middle income trap with appropriate policies. So this is a stern reminder for for India, still a lower middle income country. Once you graduate to middle income, you have to be mindful of this middle income trap. So what are the drivers of growth? There are two drivers of growth. One is investment, second is exports. Over the last decade, some decline in investment and savings, because savings are important, because savings are, we invest them. Investment rate is around 32% of GDP, savings rate are about 30% of GDP. So, and the 2% gap is, filled by foreign investment, because savings are 30, investment is 32. The private investment, recently I've given an interview. They are cash rich, the corporates and others. They are having a lot of cash, but they are not investing. Why? Because of global uncertainties and also Indian demand. Probably some of the goods still have to improve. So that's about investment. The second is exports. When East Asian miracle happened, East and Southeast Asia, many countries, China, South Korea, and Singapore. So there was a miracle. When then globally there is a open economy. There were no trade restrictions and all. So now things are different, because now protection has become. So as a result, what happens? We have limited opportunities for exports because everybody is having protection. Now, of course, India is having free trade agreements. With UK we had recently, and we are going to have with US and European Union. So hopefully we'll also grow. But we are doing well in service exports, the global capability centers and all. We are having, the service exports are almost equal to the manufacturing exports. And what are the other sources of growth? One is digitization, AI. In fact, the AI, we can have more growth. For example, we have these aspirational districts, 150 districts. Suppose we need to set up data centers there where, they're on AI and other things. And also, we need to have mandatory course curriculum in emerging technology in every schools for classes to 9 to 12 on robotics, automation, AI, machine learning and all. We should start early so that because other countries are going very fast on this AI and China, US and other countries. So if we don't do this, we'll be left behind. And the other sources, we all know, we talk about the young population. We have, median age is 28 years. So that we need to have, of course, skilling and other things are needed. And also urbanization, because India 2011 census only 31%, but by now must have reached more than 35 or thing, and by 2035 or so will be 42 or 43% urbanization. So we need to have urban planning, urban infrastructure increase. There are many problems. For example, the big cities like Mumbai, the Delhi and Bangalore. There are problems, daily problems, and also we need planning of urban thing. And lastly, of course, the women empowerment, because without women empowerment, you can't achieve sustain the growth. And also the state capacity, because many of the things are done by states, agriculture, health, education, and so we have to improve the governance and state capacity. And also there are many regulations which we have to do deregulate. For example, somebody was telling, even to get your dividends from companies or something, they said it is digitization, but there are 25 steps in that digitization. So even an educated person cannot do those things. So one has to simplify these digitization and all. And also some, for example, like sectors like health and education, we need more government involvement, because leaving it to private sector alone may not help, because there we need more people, because we say minimum government and maximum governance. But in these cases, we need more involvement, so that, I'll come to later on health and education. So this is the growth policies we need to achieve 7 to 8% in the next 5-6 years and more, and later avoid the middle income trap. So this is about growth. And next I come to the inclusive development. There are different concepts. One is pro-poor growth. Pro-poor growth is just reduction of income poverty. Second one is inclusive growth. That is, it reduces poverty, but also income poverty, but also inequality. So pro-poor growth only poverty, income, the inclusive growth is reduces income poverty and inequality. And inclusive development not only deals with income, but also with others like health, education and all. So this is a wider definition of inclusive development. So the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, are closer to inclusive development. So we have three concepts: pro-poor growth, inclusive development. So in inclusive development, I discuss briefly agriculture, the removing zero hunger, getting the zero hunger, and poverty and inequalities. So agriculture, we have done remarkably well in the last 78 years. In 1960s, we had problems with the food production. We had, importing from US, under PL 480, the wheat we were importing. Then Lyndon Johnson, the then president, said, unless you support Vietnam War, we won't give this wheat. Then that time, Mrs. Gandhi and the C. Subramaniam, agriculture minister, and MS Swaminathan and all. So that led to Green Revolution, where the yields increased from, significantly almost doubled or tripled. So we achieved that. But later, what happened, there are many challenges on agriculture, because Green Revolution, there is problems of waterlogging, soil problems, and also focus more on rice and wheat. Other crops are neglected things. So we need to diversify. And also now we have to have higher farm incomes and well-being, because you have to increase both yield and prices for farmers. And also within agriculture, of course, we have inclusiveness in terms of small farmers, because we have 86% small farmers. And two recently added to agriculture are, one is it should be nutrition sensitive, because earlier they were not talking to each other, agriculture ministry and other ministries. Now they are talking. And also second one is climate resilient and sustainable agriculture. So these two are added to agriculture much more now than before. So it's basically the healthy, equitable, resilient and sustainable agriculture. On achieving zero hunger, there are 4 challenges. One is, we have done well in poverty and all, but our children still suffer from malnutrition, around 35%. We call it stunting, height for age and all. So that is one. Second, 57% of women, 15 to 49 age, they suffer from anemia. They're anemic, 57%. And then also, third one is about more than 50% of Indians can't afford the healthy diet. Healthy diet is, carbohydrates, the proteins, the micronutrients, and all, eggs and other things also. But so more than 56% or something, they can't afford healthy diet. So these are the challenges if you want to achieve the, zero hunger thing, which we need to have, government is doing now many programs, nutrition programs, and also Poshan program, where we have multi-sectoral approach, because nutrition depends on not only healthy diet, but also good drinking water and sanitation. All those things are needed. So now we are calling it food systems approach all over the world. Food systems approach is you look at from production, then post-harvest, and then the warehousing, all those things, and also the value chains, the markets, and then consumers. So this is all called food systems approach. So we are now following that food systems approach. Coming to poverty and inequality, you must have seen in newspapers a lot of debate on this poverty and inequality. Dr. Rangarajan and myself, we have estimated that there is a decline in poverty from 2011-12 to 2020-23. The so-called extreme poverty is very low. But the World Bank has several, poverty lines. For example, now they are saying $3, that is low income countries. According to that, we have 5.3 in 2023 in India. But if we increase to $4.2, that is lower middle income, that is about 24% poverty in India. Suppose if we increase to $8, it's much more higher. So it depends on your poverty line, the level of poverty. But the rate of decline is real, and similarly inequality, because you hear in newspapers also, top 10% have have more than 50% of wealth, top 1% have 20% of wealth, like that. So those inequalities, of course, we have to reduce. But if we see consumption inequality, there is some decline, recent one. And coming to the regional disparities, I've looked at the per capita income across states. For example, the Bihar, Maharashtra, Punjab, there are a lot of differences. So if you look at over time, there is a widening of regional inequalities in per capita income. But in health and human development, there is a decline in regional disparities. Why? Because, for example, you take Bihar and Kerala in life expectancy or infant mortality, because Kerala already reached nearly 100% literacy kind of thing, but Bihar has moved faster. So there is a decline in inequalities across regions. For example, in infant mortality, Kerala already less than 10, but in Bihar it improved a lot. So that's why in per capita income there is a widening of inequalities, but in human development, health, education and all, there is a decline in regional disparities. Now I come to the employment, which is a much more important thing for India now. There are 4 or 5 issues in employment. One is the, unemployment rate is high for educated and youth, because they can afford for some time to be unemployed. But at lower level, the poor or illiterate and all, unemployment is low because they can't afford unemployment. So we say that poor are too poor to be unemployed. So if we see that unemployment rate is lower for them, they do what, they may not get much money, have a shop, small shop or something. So, so there is underemployment kind of thing there. Another one is, of course, female employment participation. There is an increase in female participation rates to 41 or so now, but still we are below average of 50%, world average 50% female employment. So we are less there. And youth unemployment is high. Youth unemployment generally 3 times to the normal unemployment. And we have informal sector, about 85% to 90% are informal sector are there. So we have to improve the productivity of informal sector and formal sector. And lastly, on this technology, you must have heard the debate on AI will lead to unemployment, or but several studies said AI will reduce some activities, employment, but it will increase employment in skilled and other activities. So that is one. So employment, what is happening is we don't have the structural transformation kind of thing from agriculture to manufacturing to services. That is the Lewis type of model where we shift agriculture to other sectors. Still 46% of the workers or in agriculture. Only 11% are in manufacturing, and the rest are in services, about 25 or so. So that structural transformation is important for better quality of employment, which we hope to have in the next decade or so. On social protection policies, we need to have social protection policies because for the poor and all, India is having several, of course, the PDS, Public Distribution System, MG Narega, the National Rural Employment Program, nutrition programs, and LPG, so many programs are there. So that could be one reason why the poverty also declined. Both growth and these kind of programs help the poverty. That's why inequality also, because the bottom population also got some benefits. Now I come to the sustainability aspect, because this goal is becoming much more important. The sustainable development goals and all, and also because of climate change, also another reason. In fact, MS Swaminathan, who was one of the pioneers of this Green Revolution, he warned even in 1968, the farmers don't grow for the short-run gain. We need to have long-term gain. So he coined this term called evergreen revolution. So evergreen revolution means you need to have agroecology and also less pesticides, less fertilizers, and of course we are also Andhra Pradesh is also experimenting with natural farming, organic farming, and also of course renewable energy. That is because carbon emissions are lower. And then climate change inequalities. The carbon emissions, we have two kinds of inequalities. One is between developed countries and developing countries. We have done a study between India and US. US has almost 10 times the consumption patterns higher than India. So that some of you might have gone there. There the consumption is very high of all the consumer goods, and so they have more carbon emissions compared to some of our countries. But within our developing countries, there are inequalities. The rich, they spoil the environment much more than the poor, because the carbon emissions are higher. They use cars, air conditioners, and all the consumer goods. So these inequalities also one has to take into account. That's why Prime Minister called it a lifestyle environment, lifestyle for environment. That means, there should be global cooperation, of course, and also national level policies. But for your individual level, or where you live in your house, or in your colony, or somewhere in the community, we should follow the less carbon emission policies. For example, use of plastic, or many other things. We should have our own goals. So he called it lifestyle for environment, which G20 is also practicing now. The next one is the fiscal federalism. The states are important because India, we don't have GDP of central government or something, but it's just combination of states giving the GDP. So the Finance Commission, 16th Finance Commission now, they will give the tax share to states. So there is a debate now on the north versus south kind of thing. In the sense, some of the performing states, they think we are getting less because per capita income is one of the criteria, and population also another criteria. So we are getting less because of our performance in this. But on the other hand, of course, for the backward states, we have to give more taxes, revenue for them, because they can catch up. So this dilemma, hopefully 16th Finance Commission will solve. But there are, of course, debt problems for many states. including Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, some other states. They have, and also one needs to have balance between welfare and development, because some of the states are competing to give welfare to the people, which is good, but you can't spend entire money on this. We need development also. I mean, the infrastructure and those things. So there should be a balance between welfare and development. Another one is the decentralization, because states, for them decentralization stops there. They don't want to give powers to municipal councils, panchayats and all. So we need to have, for example, the revenue goes to panchayats and municipal councils. In other countries, about 30% to 50%, whereas in India only 3% goes to panchayats and municipal councils from states. So that decentralization is also important for achieving growth, inclusion, and sustainability. The short-term measures like inflation, higher debt, and fiscal deficit problems, the monetary and fiscal policies take care. But in India, there are two long-term problems, structural problems. Before going to conclusions, I mentioned some time, I spent some time on this. One already I mentioned, structural, we have not moved from agriculture to industry and services. So the manufacturing sector is important because all the East Asian countries, they did the manufacturing share is about, for China it's 30%, in India GDP share in manufacturing is 17%. So how to improve the manufacturing and shift some of the agriculture people also to manufacturing and services, because manufacturing has backward and forward linkages. I mean, some people say manufacturing versus services, but they are complementary because manufacturing also increases services. So one should keep in mind that. So this is important. For example, our manufacturing has become more capital intensive. So because we are giving capital at cheaper rates, so how do you have labor intensive manufacturing is very important. India has, for exports, there is a advantage because China, many people don't want to go now. They want to diversify to other countries. So India has, advantage that. And we have advantage in labor intensive traditional industries like textiles, toys and other things, leather, and also modern global value chains. So we can have this exports and all. So that structural transformation is very important. This is one. Second one is health and education. As I mentioned, since Jawaharlal Nehru onwards, they gave importance to higher education like IITs and others, but primary and secondary were neglected. So, and also there is a dichotomy in both health and education. We have very high level of IIT, IIMs and all, and some private universities. But at bottom level, the quality of education is not very high. So similarly, hospitals. So this dichotomy we have to do, because one sector which can transform India is education sector, and along with the skills. So that, suppose if we don't improve, then achieving our 2047 goals is problematic. So now I come to the conclusions of the lecture. The one is the future of India. Of course, there are global and domestic challenges and opportunities for raising high growth, improve employment and reduce poverty. But more efforts are needed now for higher growth, given the slowdown in the pre-pandemic period and also during pandemic period. And also we lost first 3 decades because our per capita income is very low, the first 3 decades. So we have to run faster, to achieve growth now. So for sustained growth and job creation, as I mentioned, investment in exports are the two engines of growth. So deglobalization is a challenge. However, India is witnessing a historic opportunity, as I mentioned, boosting manufacturing exports because of China plus one strategy, where we can benefit. Also, because of tariffs, hopefully we'll have much better than Vietnam and other countries for US and India trade. And also for, this public investment, public investment is happening, but private investment, how do you get, by leaving the uncertainties, and also foreign direct investment is also important. So India's rank in per capita income is still low, but hopefully we will overcome some of these problems. And we also need reforms, as I mentioned, deregulation is important, ease of doing business, digital infrastructure, trade openness, and also land availability and all. And I already mentioned the long-term structural problems. Of one is two problems: the change in from agriculture to industry and services, and then the health education dichotomy. And skills also, we are still less than 10% of our workers as formal skilling compared to 60-70% in South Korea and other countries. Another, of course, is we have to take care of the climate change resilience is important thing. Reducing carbon emissions, accelerating energy transition is a challenge and opportunity. And role of states in this journey is equally crucial, because I keep mentioning the states are important, because as one British economist, John Robinson, once said, whatever you can rightly say about India, the opposite is also true. Because what you say in Punjab, opposite may be true in Kerala. So not only states, but even at the district level, because states are very large. Some of like UP is like European Union. So even at district level, we have to plan. As I mentioned, the per capita income, there is across states, it's inequalities are rising, but human development, there is a decline. And GDP growth is important, but inclusion, as mentioned earlier, also inclusion and sustainability are important. And then employment creation is one of the most, the quality and quantity is the most inclusive growth concept. And of course, women empowerment, including work participation rates of women, will contribute immensely to growth and equity. So India has progressed on many fronts. To conclude, so the task is to build on the achievements of so far and strengthen democracy and move towards a society that is not only prosperous, but also equitable and pro-nature. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for that inspiring lecture on the India Development Agenda for 2047. We will now open the floor for any questions from the students.
So, Sairam sir. Sir, I have 3 questions for you. So, the number one is, you have said that the consumption patterns have increased over the period of time, where the income inequality and wealth inequality is there. So, while talking about consumption patterns, is there any possibility for autonomous consumption which will lead to another debt trap of households? Because a person, if he is buying a car, he might get it for an EMI, and he must get it for loan, and he will pay the EMI monthly. Will it not lead to debt trap, sir? That's my first question. The second question is, Sir, now currently there is an increasing demand for startups in India, and a lot of youth population are opting for startups, but still the average youth who are choosing for placements over startups are more. So how can these startups and the entrepreneurship culture be balanced with the uh, placement culture, sir? The third thing is, what is your view on red tapeism under development and growth, sir? Thank you, sir.
You want me to answer or want to collect more?
Sir, I want you to answer, sir.
Yeah, okay. So the first one in the consumption patterns, uh, it is they are increasing. In fact, I was in a bank earlier, the Axis Bank, independent director. So there, the retail, the credit has increased significantly, and which is also, there is no collateral kind of thing. So the personal consumption loans significantly increased in this because of people want to use credit cards and many other things for consumption, and also some people put in stock markets. So there is a significant increase in debt of the people, many people in the thing. So I mean, the answer is that, I mean, the one has to be careful, and then Reserve Bank has actually putting more regulations now on this non-collateral, debt. So they said banks have to keep much more to take care of this problem, because NPS have increased, the non-performing assets loans have increased. So it is a problem because without money and other things, if you keep on spending, that is true of not only individuals but also at national level, because US, debt is 120% of GDP. So the nations also spending much more than what they can afford. So individuals have to balance. I mean, they can afford what they can afford. Only they should spend on that. Income and these inequalities, of course, they are increasing because of the rich are getting much more than the middle class and poor, and so that over time only with other policies, tax and other policies, so one has to reduce that. But consumption inequality, as I mentioned, has declined. That is because of the growth, employment, and also welfare programs. The bottom tier has increased things. So some reduction in consumption inequality. Second one, the startups. Actually, I have one point, but I didn't mention that startups. Actually, it's a success story, and also it's a mixed bag. Many startups have done well, but many also have closed the startups. So it depends on your business model, how you end up doing this, you know, profits and strategies, and also getting funding from venture capital and other those things. But we have done successful in some of the uh, these startups, but many also failed. So one has to be careful, and placements, yeah, that of course the that individual efforts and institutional efforts are important. For example, the many places the placements in startups, some are doing, but the established ones are getting much more. The banks and corporates, they are getting much more than the startups. Red tape, that's what I was telling. I mean, a lot of deregulation is needed, which our Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, we are doing some work on this all over India, how to, reduce this red tapeism, whatever I call it, ease of doing business, or many of the, even the, benefits for a common man, how to reduce the red tape. That we are doing some work.
Sairam sir.
Yeah.
Sir, if you look at the current situation of the economy, your inflation is lowered to 77-month low, and the net, there were rate cuts in the, consecutively, and net FDI flows has gone down, and also your finance markets, stock markets are, tumbling, and it's the lowest, largest down streak in the, in the past 2 years. And our growth projections were at 6.5 to 7%. And there is a, you know, you know, how do you think the economy will grow in, how do you think the India can attain the projected growth rate with all the certainties given? That is my first question. And my second question is that, since sir has mentioned about the middle income trap, how do you think that India will be able to get rid of this, and without promoting the innovation? Yeah, there has been significant strides in innovation, but there should be, more. Um, and my third question is that, how can we predict that? How can we predict the growth rate looking on what variable? One such variable which I read and I remember is that by looking at the trucks and transportation, automotive sales and all. So what do you consider will determine the growth? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Well, yeah, that's so inflation has come down. That's a good thing because inflation hurts the poor most compared to other people. On FDI, today there is an article in Financial Express. This clarifies your question. One should not look at net FDI. It's the gross FDI is important because net FDI, for example, Tata's take the money and invest there in outside. They will get back the thing. So that article in Financial Express today says that it's a wrong way to look at net FDI. In fact, they're questioning the RBI methodology also. They're saying gross minus repatriation and other things. So net FDI, even the finance minister clarified and the RBI governor also clarified that one should not look at, it's a bad thing, taking abroad some of the money. One is interested in gross FDIs, where the ease of doing business and those things, so people like it, that's where they are bringing. But some of our own people are taking the money out and having, that's not a bad thing. But also because of the difference between interest rates, the Federal Reserve interest rate is high now, and then the India's interest rate is also lower. So as a result, some people are taking to US, the FII, the some of the stocks and all, they are taking back. And stock market, it is it's a volatile. One day, if finance minister says something or I say something, that will there are volatility is there, or Trump says something. So the one of the problems of stock market in India is that valuations are higher. So you can't grow much more except the individual stocks. You can have much more some stocks. On the growth, 6.5, it's still, we are one of the largest economies, growing economy in the world, among the large economies. And we have to go much faster because, you also mentioned middle income trap. Middle income trap, we can avoid the two things I mentioned, the structural problems we have to solve by that time. We have to have more manufacturing and also agriculture value chains and all, and services keep on doing service exports and all. And then, of course, the skilled health and education, this dichotomy we have to reduce, and several other where we can avoid the middle income trap. The last one on, yeah, the growth, I think last one, what is that? The growth rate, or you say,
Looking at what variables do you
what
forecast
variable?
the
Yeah.
growth?
So the growth, high frequency numbers are there now. Uh, Many people are, yeah, transport, GST, all those rural demand and urban demand. There are many variables are there, high frequency indicators. So that one looks at, I mean, you can see every day some high frequency numbers. The, yeah, we mentioned transport, GST, and also the, for example, rural tractor sales, two-wheeler sales. So all these indicators, they're calling it high frequency numbers. But at broader level, I mentioned growth depends on the investment and exports, apart from other variables like the new sources of growth, the digitization and the urbanization and other things are coming. Uh, so, yeah.
Yes, thank you, sir. One more last question.
Sairam sir, as you mentioned in the historical background that the first 3 decades after independence, we observed a very slow growth rate, that is the Hindu growth rate, and then we were a decade late to make an economic reform. So that was a continuous, like we had a historical background, we had a historical data on that. But what do you do in cases where there are shocks? Like for example, Donald Trump's claims on tariffs that he's posing to the world. Like, because economic theory breaks down whatever microeconomics and macroeconomics teaches us, that doesn't hold up in these kind of situations. So what wisdom guides situations like these?
Yeah, one is, of course, there are two factors for growth. The global economy, uh, growth due to global economy, the open economy, less uncertainty and all. So India would have grown maybe more than 7% with global certainty if you don't have these two twin shocks. So about 0.5 to 0.8% can be due to the global certainty. So we are losing that now because of global uncertainties, the shocks you mentioned. Of course, we had COVID shock and other things, but the uncertainty because of Trump's tariff policies and then geopolitical wars, the that has hurt us probably, as I mentioned, that 0.5 to 0.8% of GDP. Otherwise, it would have been probably 7.2 or 7.3. But domestic story is quite good because we have macroeconomic stability, political stability, and then certainty about the policies. Of course, the deregulation and those things are there, but still we are achieving the average rate of 6.5 is not a bad thing. That we should achieve 7 more than 7 or towards 8. But the shocks will be there. Even climate change shocks will come, the floods and droughts and other things. So we have to be prepared for these shocks, which India has done well during COVID also, vaccines and other things. So it's a continuous process that, but I mentioned past because would have been higher per capita because that time per capita growth was only 1%. Whereas now it is nearly 5.5 6% because population growth is much less now, and so we lost 3 decades on that. So the shocks will be there in future also, the trade shocks, because everybody wants protection now. FTAs are there, free trade agreements, but it's a mutual benefit. India want to have our own national interest for right reasons. For example, agriculture, dairy, we don't want to compromise. Whereas other countries, they want to, dump on India. For example, China wants to dump. So it's a continuous process. We have to be mindful of the, and have appropriate policies.
Hello. Yeah. There's some more questions on the online mode, but in the interest of time, we will take these proceedings forward. And we profusely thank Dr. Professor Mahendra Dev sir for his time and for his insightful visionary lecture, which is thoughtful, inclusive, and also deeply relevant to India's future. To formally express our gratitude, I now invite Dr. G. Raghavendra Raju sir, who is the head of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, and Dean of Student Welfare, to deliver a vote of thanks. Thank you. Sai Ram, sir.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Offering our collective pranams at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Lord, Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba Varu, esteemed Chancellor Shri Chakravarti sir, Vice-Chancellor Raghavendra Prasad sir, Registrar Shri Kankanna sir, Dean ma'am, family members of Professor Vishwanath Pandit, and the chief guest for today's memorial lecture, Professor Mahendra Dev sir. A loving Sai Ram to one and all. I take it as a deem to propose the vote of thanks, but before doing that, I just thought I'll take a minute or two to connect, like though Vice-Chancellor was saying, sir, that Pandit sir had come in 2001. Yes, it's true, but the connect of Professor Pandit and the institute goes back to 70s, in fact 70s, 80s, where he would even set the paper for MBA entry exam to start with. He used to come as a guest faculty, but it was only formally in 2001. I still remember we were seated in the we used to call it as the Ganesh portico. So we used to be seated there, and I still remember the day is March 2001. I was in my postgraduate diploma in Indian culture and philosophy. So our students were just waiting. Swami finished his interview, and then he was coming for a round. And then Swami was, literally very, very jubilant, and if I can use the word, very excited. And he just literally came and said, "Delhi Professor Ostunadu, Delhi Professor Ostunadu." So we couldn't take any clue from what Swami was actually mentioning to, because we thought Delhi Professor is okay, fine, somebody. But then Bhagavan comes closer and says, Professor Vishwanath Pandit, the Delhi professor is going to come and join us, and then start the department. So that is the genesis of the Department of Economics way back in 2001. So next year is going to be 25 years. So we are also planning to have a probably an kind of year-long session activities for this 25 years of our existence of this department. That's one of the youngest department, but in terms of achievements, I would say it got its recognition in every sphere, in terms of its activities, in terms of its outreach programs, and so on, in terms of the thing. And 2008, when Professor Pandit was nominated as Vice Chancellor, I still remember there was some informal discussion going on, and Bhagavan said Vishwanath Pandit is, in Telugu he said it is Vishwanike Panditudu, so Vishwanike Nathudu is. So great was Professor Vishwanath Pandit, and it's exactly 1 year that Sir has merged with Bhagavan. It was on this very day, 26th of July, and it so coincided with this memorial lecture. Now coming to the formality, so thank you, sir, Mahendra Dev sir, for taking off your busy time. I tell you, morning I had written a mail, and by afternoon sir said, yes, I have accepted an invitation. So in spite of your busy schedule, sir, we wholeheartedly thank you very, very, very much for accepting our invitation, and and giving a very thought-provoking lecture on a very important aspect of regard to the Indian economy. we need to thank, generally people quote Bhagwan at the end, but I personally feel first and foremost we need to thank Bhagwan, Shri Sathya Baba Varu, because of whom all of us are here, all of us are connected, and it is but for his divine grace and blessings, probably this event would not have been possible. So thank you very much, Swami, for giving us this greatest opportunity to be part of your divine mission. And also we pray that you continue to shower your choices, blessings on all of us, so that we take this divine mission way forward. We thank Mrs. Krishna Pandit ma'am for instituting this memorial lecture, and every year we would like to take this only the beginning. As Professor Vice-Chancellor sir was saying, there's a long way to go. Definitely we will really come up to expectations, and every time, honestly, I think if I can say so, I want to go on record, probably I was the maximum beneficiary of interaction with Professor Pandit sir, because I was sitting in his room. So I was one corner, I was in another corner. So for decades, we had beautiful interactions, and whatever mentoring, whatever little I am today, I can really boast it is because of Professor Vishwanath Pandit. No textbooks, no online lectures would substitute his, interactions. They were really gem of that nature. So thank you, sir. We definitely want, wherever you are, continue to bless us. We really want to take up this department at much, much, much greater heights, and we hope that we come up to his expectations. Thank you, Mahendra Dev sir, again, as I mentioned. Also, we thank Chakravarti sir, the Chancellor of this university, for joining us in spite of his busy schedule to be with us and be part of these discussions. We also thank the Vice-Chancellor sir, Professor B. Raghavendra Prasad sir, Shrikant sir, the registrar of this institute, and the administration team for making it possible in terms of looking at the details and making it happen. We also thank Professor P.L. Nani ma'am, the Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences, Languages and Literature, and also campus administration, who has really made this beautiful environment to have this session. We thank the AV team, the maintenance team, all the students and staff who were again part of this beautiful session, and there are many students, alumni who wanted to be here, but their hearts hurry, and I'm very sure, but unfortunately they could join in person, but they have joined virtually. So again, brothers, thank you all. Again, afternoon we are having an informal session with all of them, where the alumni would express their experiences with Bhagwan, so that the current generation of students know what Professor Pandit stood for. So we are going to have that session in the afternoon post lunch. So thanks to all the viewers online and offline who have participated, and once again thank you once again to everybody who have made this event a grand success. Thank you. Sai Ram. Now we will end this session with Mangal Harati. After Mangal Harati, I request the students to stay back. We request the guests to leave first, after which the students can go to the Humanities building lawns. Thank you. Sai Ram.
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Satya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Parti Maheshwara Om Jai Jagadish Hare Shashivadana Shri Ikara Sarva Pranapate Swami Sarva Pranapate Ashrita Kalpalatika Ashrita Kalpalatika Apad Bandhava Om Jai Jagadish Hare Mata Pita Guru Daivamu Mariyantayu Nive Swami Mariyantayu Nive Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nagendra Shayana Om Jai Jagadish Hare Omkara Rupa Ojasvi Ho Sai Mahadeva Satya Sai Mahadeva Mangala Arati Anduko Mangala Arati Anduko Mandara Giridhari Om Jai Jagadish Hare Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana नारायण ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण नारायण ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण नारायण ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा ओम शांति 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 समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु ओम शांति 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 जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Mahendra Dev, sir, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sai Ram, sir.
Bye.